I'm Jason Mason, and today we are cracking the code on one of the most frustrating challenges in music production. Why your mixes sound great in the studio but fall flat everywhere else. If you've ever felt baffled when your perfect studio mix sounded different in the car or through another system, you're not alone. Let's dive into the common pitfalls and how to fix them, ensuring your mixes shine no matter what, no matter where they are played. First important point, room acoustics and monitoring issues. Let's start with the elephant in the room, your studio environment. Poor room acoustics can deceive you, making mixes that sound balanced in the studio but are bass heavy or too thin elsewhere. Invest in a proper acoustic treatment to minimize reflections and bass traps to even out low frequencies. Also, double check your monitoring setup. Are your speakers placed optimally? Is your listening position ideal? These factors are crucial for accurate sound reproduction. It's about the basics. Are your monitors placed optimally? Does your room sound okay for mixing? Or do you need headphones? It's just the basics. And if you check for those few things, you're good to go. Next point, over-reliance on studio gear. While your studio monitors are truthful, they can also be too forgiving. Mixing exclusively on high-end gear might not reveal how your track performs on less capable systems. To counter this, reference your mix on different devices. Car stereos, earbuds, smartphones, and computer speakers. This will give you a real-world sense of how your mix translates across various listening environments. This one is probably the most important point. You don't need $5,000 studio speakers. Go into your car, check your mix there, check it on your phone, listen to your mix on your laptop boxes. If you do that, you'll hear what's wrong with your mix. And if you hear what's wrong with your mix, you can make it better. As easy as it is. Next point, misjudging levels and dynamics. Dynamic range and volume levels are often culprits when a mix doesn't translate. Over-compression or limiting in the studio can squash your mix, causing it to lose punch and clarity outside the controlled environment. Use dynamics judiciously. Aim for a balance where your mix breathes and maintains impact without being overly compressed. Two important factors. If your mix has too much dynamics, it will sound bassy and the highs will sound digital. That's a fact. If your mix has not enough dynamics, it will sound MIDI, squashy, and maybe has some kind of pump effect on it. There is one thing I'll mention over and over again. For example, you have a vocal recording and your interface is not that good. That's okay. However, with the right dynamics, even your cheapest vocal recording session will sound good, and the same counts for your mixing session. Levels and dynamics. Look out for both of them. And as I said a second earlier, the mid-range. Neglecting the mid-range. The mid-range is where the magic happens, often carrying the essential elements of your mix, like vocals and rhythm guitars. A common mistake is to focus too much on low and high frequencies, causing the mid-range to either dominate or recede, depending on where it's played back. Ensure your mid-range is well balanced. It's what most listeners will actually hear on everyday playback systems. Think about recent releases. You probably take your phone and play it to your friend. You totally know how it sounds. MIDI and maybe some highs. And 99% of your songs you're listening to in the public is probably on your phone or on some kind of small speaker. And if you have the mid-range under control in your mix, you have the song under control. The mid-range is the most important range in your song. Next point, stereo imaging and panning issues. Excessive or poor stereo panning can wreak havoc on your mix's translation. While a wide stereo image sounds impressive on studio monitors, it can become fuzzy or lose impact on mono systems. Keep key elements like bass, kick, and lead vocals centered. Use panning to create width, but check your mix in mono to ensure it still holds up. I know engineers that are mainly mixing on a mono box. As said a second earlier, mobile phones. The newer ones are stereo, but you mostly hear mono. And if you listen to recent releases, a lot of them have, for example, a low cut on the sides, just to make it more centered. So, mid-range and the center. If you have both of them under control, your mix will sound good. Last and probably the most important point, ignoring listener expectations and genre standards. Understanding your audience and the genre norms can significantly influence how your mix is perceived outside the studio. Different genres have different production standards. For instance, a heavy metal mix will be treated differently than a pop mix. Know what your listeners expect in terms of loudness, brightness, and bass levels to ensure your mix meets those expectations across various platforms. Hip-hop, for example, is more centered. Sometimes they are even produced in mono. Heavy metal albums, for example, are wide. wide. Wide guitars, cymbals, and if you have EDM production, it's both of those variants. And that's why music production is interesting. Inform yourself about the genre you're trying to produce and then go all in on these factors. And there you have it. A roadmap to ensure your mixes translate well, no matter where they're played. By addressing these common issues, you can create mixes that sound consistent and professional across all playback systems. If you've enjoyed this video and even learned something today, please leave a like. And if you know another important point I've missed today, please let me know in the comments. However, until next time.